Seth, it's our 50th. I got to tell you, I'm really excited. You and I have been kind of talking about this as we've been approaching it, but hey, buddy, we made it. Not
The
final.
haters and losers said we wouldn't get here, but here we are.
Here
50
we
episodes. It's
are.
actually all joking aside, it's a crazy thing. I'm excited to sort of unpack what these 50 episodes, this journey, for lack of a better way to say it, has looked like. But it's exciting and it's impressive. And it's certain times you have to just put the joking aside and be proud of it. So I know that I am,
Yeah.
and I hope you are too.
Yeah, we're going to take this moment and pat ourselves on the back, everyone. We didn't
Yeah.
think, or we had naysayers out there that said we'd last maybe 5 or 6 before Seth would hang it up and go, Scott, I just can't stand seeing your freaking face anymore. But
Yes. And so far I've only thought it. I haven't said it out loud.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's great.
you
Yeah.
haven't taken off. So, Seth, let me just jump right in and ask you the first
Yeah.
time you and I talked about this, and now, what is your impression then, and what did you think it would be, and how has it actually evolved, and the reality of it now?
Yeah. So I was thinking, I was reflecting on that a little bit this morning, and kind of the origin of this. And I feel like before we actually decided to do anything, we had multiple, and this sounds so cliche, but we had multiple people kind of said, like, I feel like when I spend time with you guys and you're talking music, I learn a lot from you. Like, I swear to God, this is not uh um what's the
Like a
word I'm looking for,
plug?
a straw man argument. No, it's like this was a thing that we'd heard a few times. And I think eventually it convinced us to give it a whirl. And I think the thing that surprises me the most is, well, I think we've refined things and we've sort of found our voice and we've figured out our flow, etc. All the logistical things, many of which are credit
Yeah,
to you. I'm most amazed at how consistent it's been with at least my original vision of what I think would be interesting and what we're good at. I think we've sort of found our formula and stuck to it. And I've listened to other podcasts to where you listen to the first episode and then you listen to like the 100th episode and it's like a different program. And I
yeah,
actually think we did a good job of sort of defining what we like to talk about and what's exciting and how we frame it, and even like kind of
yeah.
our pacing and stuff. And we've kind of stuck to our guns. So I'm kind of proud of that we found it pretty quickly, which is not common, I don't think. How about
Yeah.
you?
Well, I think, first of all, I'm just still psyched that we're here doing this. It's so much fun. So that was our original intent, right? This is not a money-making machine or anything, although we would accept any bribes or any Patreon or whatever you call it.
Very much so. We are available. We can be bought.
Always
We can
available,
be bought.
everyone. I mean, I need a haircut. I'm trying to save enough money to get a haircut. I think that the thing that I remember, Seth, is when you and I would talk when we were roommates and business partners and whatnot, is there would be a song, for example, and we would tell a little bit of this story about it, and it would add value to their experience. Or like, almost like this Cliff Clavin, like, oh, I didn't know that, like these factoids, but it would add value to it. Now that they knew this information, they would look at the song differently, or they would feel about it differently. And I thought they were very appreciative of that. And I was like, and that was really the impetus for us creating this, is that we had this knowledge, if you will, and that we could share it. So I think that's that, virtuous cycle, is that we would share something, they would get excited about it, and then share something, their experience back to it, how they felt. And so I've been so happy to see that evolve through, 50 some episodes here.
A hundred
Uh,
percent. And I think, one thing I think I've heard consistently from friends and people who've listened is that the enthusiasm that I think we have for what we do, but also just music in general,
yeah,
specific songs, artists, is pretty infectious. I think that people appreciate that they can tell that we really are excited about this stuff, and that's hard to manufacture. So I think we've done, it seems like, a reasonably good job in sort of capturing the essence of that, and like you said, sort of translating what we were already doing and thinking and talking about and getting excited about into kind of a somewhat neat 30-minute box every week. So
yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's almost that we share because we care. And so I just want to, again, take this moment here, say thank you to everyone that has been with us on this journey. And I almost wanted to start with that, as obviously, especially our I don't know, say inspiration, Mark Krebs. Mark, you're out there. Hopefully you're listening. And the one who actually sat you and I down and said, you guys have to do this. So, Mark, thank you. Um,
Cheers, Mark.
and along the way, obviously, our good friend Piers, who has helped us kind of mentor us throughout this process. But let me ask you, Seth, what has been your favorite episode so far where you just were just like, gosh, I didn't, this one is just like why I'm doing this. I love being on D Side Stories.
It's a really good question. I was thinking about this earlier. I think it was maybe our first episode, but the introduction to Yacht Rock, just because I thought it was like kind of a fun topic, a funny topic, one that I didn't know a lot about, and so learned just doing like the homework on it. And it's the one that I get maybe not the most feedback on, but it's the one I
Yeah.
always hear people like, "Oh, I love that episode." And I think so much of in the moment we're kind of doing our thing, but a lot of the enjoyment I get is people sort of like, maybe you've had this experience too, but like someone will make reference to something I or you said in the podcast. I'm like, I don't even remember saying that because it was 9 months ago, but people are going back into the archive, listening to things and having like genuine reactions or opinions. Or so the Yacht Rock one
Yeah.
jumps to mind. I love doing the kind of America music by region. I
Yeah.
thought was really fun. The writers one where it was sort of like excessive backstage
Yeah.
demands was just that we got a lot of really good suggestions and like feedback on that one of like, oh, have you heard this? Oh, have you heard that story? So anything that sort of elicits a reaction from people and they feel like they want to participate, those are the ones that really stick with me because it gives me pause and makes me realize like, oh my God, people are listening to this thing. So that's sort of a common theme for me. How about you?
Yeah. I think for me, the one that I just was laughing, it was about the Christmas edition, right? I won't say
Oh
almost a
yeah.
year
Yeah,
ago,
yeah.
but I think the funniest was hearing you tell about the backstories of things that I had no idea about. And I just remember I could not stop laughing. And I remember, just to tell when I go back and edit the sound as the audio guy, I just had to tone down my laughing. It was just like off the charts. And I had to reset everything. So I think that's one that I was like, this is why. I know when I met Seth way back over 15 some years ago, and you would say something, and I was just cracking up. And I think that episode brought it all back of like, yeah. Because this we could have done this solo, could have been like, here's Scott's, knowledge about music or Seth. And I think that's when I was like, yeah, this is why I'm doing it. And I know other people that were listening were like, oh, yeah, it sounds like you guys are back at the office now, just working on shit, always laughing. And I'm always proud of that we can make each other laugh, or at least, I make you laugh. I don't know. But that was my
And the
favorite.
And the other great part about the Christmas episode is just like all the songs we talked about, we don't have to do shit for eternity during Christmas. We can just rerun that episode every year. So we're just keep cashing those royalty checks like Paul McCartney. So
Yeah, exactly, guys. So, just get ready, right? Christmas is just around the corner. Well, one thing as well, we talk about, our friends that have given us feedback, direct feedback and whatnot, but we've also got a lot of comments on our social media platforms. So we, halfway through, we went on YouTube, right, with our faces, which was a big deal in a good or
intimidating, but
bad way.
yeah.
Intimidated. It was just horrible because I have this. I can project my the on my big screen at my house, and it just makes my double chin look just like so ominous. And so and luckily, thank you everyone. You've never commented about that on YouTube. But what have been some comments that you've heard, maybe of friends of friends, but kind of someone a little bit not a direct link.
So sorry, say that again. What like reactions
Yeah,
have I
so
heard?
yeah, like so what comments, like we have our our close friends that we hear about all the time from our episodes, but
Yeah.
someone you didn't expect, someone you didn't know directly in that first degree of separation.
Yeah, I've had this happen a handful of times, and it's like a girl that I know that was like a friend of a friend that I had met. You just like I'm sure you have this too. Like
Yep.
I have like random Instagram mutual friends that I've met them and I know them, but like you connect with them years ago and you kind of just don't interact or they move away
Yep.
or whatever. And I've received like multiple messages from people who legitimately, I barely remember my initial interaction with them, and they're giving like really genuine feedback. I remember this girl that I like I said was in a friend group. I think she lives in Seattle now, and she reached out to me. This was 6 months ago, maybe, and she obviously had just seen the promos that we're posting on
Yep.
Instagram, and she said something along the lines of like, "Hey, I don't know if you remember me, but I just wanted to know I really enjoy your podcast." And she said something along the lines of like, "I grew up in a Mexican American family, and so like pop music wasn't exactly like at the forefront of what we did. And so a lot of what you're talking about is brand new to me. And I feel like I've learned a lot, and it's caused me to discover music like I never, knew about growing up." And so I think some
Yep.
of the things we take for granted um, is not necessarily the case for everybody. And so hearing something like that, getting people to listen to and connect with the music that we like, and sort of being that conduit, is justification alone for kind of getting up every week and doing this thing. So that was really cool. And I've had it. That's the one I remember, but I've had
Yeah.
a half a dozen experiences like that where people I don't know particularly well and I'm not close with have reached out unsolicited with no like no motive, to just be like, "Hey, the stuff you guys are doing is really cool." And so
Yeah.
that makes it worth the effort for sure.
Yeah, I think for me it was a random comment on YouTube, right? So there's no there's millions of degrees of separation between me and this person. It was just a random name, and it was a comment I made actually. So we have our YouTube channel, and I made a comment about a video, REM's Imitation of Life, for those of you who know that song. It's a very interesting video, a very innovative video. And I made a comment from D Side Stories, right? And someone wrote back almost immediately and said, "I've your analysis of that video. Um, I feel like I know you. I've been waiting for someone to comment about this, and I'm so happy I found you." Right? And it was maybe a little bit creepy in a way, but I thought it was very.
The magic of social media.
And then I was like, "I found you too." And I'm like, send me a pic. And it was like a 50-year-old dude. I was like, "Oh no." Um,
That's
but
that, who thought that podcasting would lead to Scott getting free feet pics from people?
yeah,
What are the odds? It's great.
it's OnlyFans. And and I just thought that was really special. And we now that we're on TikTok as well, we're getting a lot of comments from people that we don't know, and even different countries, right? On these analytics boards, we can see who's where people are writing from. And so we have fans in Belgium, Seth, if you knew that.
We're huge in Brussels, huge in Bruges.
We're huge in Brussels, everyone. I just want you to know that that's going to be our new tagline. But that was something that I thought was really special, something that just stuck with me. Like, hey, we are making a difference. Because I mean, for the first couple episodes, I feel like it's just Seth and I talking to ourselves.
Yeah.
But let me ask you a question, Seth. What thing did you learn either from me or from the research about a specific topic that was unexpected?
Oh man, I feel like this happens on a weekly basis when you're
Okay.
when you're sharing stuff with me. But I'm trying to think of like a fun or funny one. The things I enjoy the most, actually, I
Yeah.
think are like I remember when we did the episode about jam bands and we talked about the Grateful Dead,
Yeah.
and just hearing like I feel like I know you pretty well, and I feel like I've
Yep.
known you for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so sometimes certain topics bring out stuff that I didn't know about you. And so like
Yeah.
we were talking like, oh, when I used to go to Dead shows, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. I didn't even know you. It makes sense given where you grew up, etc. But it's sort of like it's we continue to peel back the onion, and so
Yeah.
kind of learning your direct experiences with the things we're talking about has
Yeah.
been a real kind of like rewarding thing to me. How about you?
Well, first of all, I was just to tell the audience when I met Seth was coming into this big corporation, and I won't say I didn't expect much, but I didn't expect Seth to have such extensive knowledge of music, and so that was very surprising. And so as we got on our first couple episodes, there's a band, Jay Giles Band, and I thought
Oh
I knew
yeah,
this band, and Seth comes out with this album recommendation, their first, basically their first live
Full
album,
House. Yeah,
Full House.
yeah.
And I just was like, it's rare. I'm always the one discovering. I'm the dude who's like, okay, Seth, everyone, look at this. And this is a time where I truly was just in gratitude. I was like, I never knew this album existed. And it's one of my favorite albums now. But one that it was maybe an impression that I had. for our audience here, and you know my, I won't say hatred or my disdain, but let's just lay it out there. Nickelback. Okay,
Yeah.
so I started off as just like everyone. I was a follower and I was hating on Nickelback. And I'm not saying, Seth, I'm not saying I'm a fan, but I understand them now. And I
You've dug
understand.
deep.
So I want to make a formal apology to the members of Nickelback as if they're listening to this right now. But I'm
We're
sorry.
absolutely emanating positive vibes today. I thought Nickelback was going to take another beating on this show, and I'm feeling bad about it. And the fact that you're coming here with your hat in your hand and
Yeah.
apologizing to the poor millionaires of Nickelback, that's very
Yeah.
big of you, Scott. I'm very proud.
Still hating on Limp Bizkit. All right. I'm never gonna go there. We do
That one
like
can stay.
but Nickelback, that's just something as so what I did is I want to give these guys a fair chance. And I encourage anyone, if you're listening to one of our recommendations, is to give it a fair chance, maybe do some research. And I really got to appreciate them. So it's come a long way from disdain to, let's call it, respect.
There you go. And you hit on it. I mean, that one's, we can laugh about it, but I would say one kind of thought that just triggered in my mind is we both know a lot of music, but I think by virtue of wanting to make sure that we continuously explore new and interesting topics and are not just talking about like the same 10 years of music for every single episode, I think it's caused me to branch out a little bit and kind of delve into stuff that I wasn't as familiar with. And so as someone who loves music, it's great to have a forcing function to be like, oh, we're going to do an episode about this. I better get smart on this era of music or this style or these artists. And it's opened up my mind by virtue of kind of proclaiming to be the experts or, you know, something resembling it, but not really knowing certain things and admitting that and kind of going and educating ourselves. So it's we're still learning, just as I'm sure people listening to the show are.
Again, another big learning, and so that I have been talking about this as we started to promote, right? We did some, episodes and get kind of an inventory. And as you know, Seth, I was never a social media guy. Was vehemently opposed to anything, sharing anything online about myself. And Seth and I had to have this off the record, this call. I'm like, Seth, I think we have to start promoting. This is not going to just fly off the shelves, if you will. And then that's discussion about, Seth, we're going to videotape ourselves. And I just want to say, Seth was like, no way. First of all, I'm going to say this about Seth, right? So I didn't want like hearing his own voice. And I was like, oh, Seth, you got a radio voice, bro. You got to leverage that, man. I wish I had that. And so getting Seth to get in front of the mic was a big deal. And before we used to do it in the same record in the closet. That sounds a bit sketchy, but
hey, Scott,
we
you know what?
do it in the closet.
50 episodes in, we're proudly out of the closet.
Yeah. We used to do it in this closet. And so Seth grabbing the mic as if it was just this foreign object. And I'm like, okay, Seth, now you just open your mouth and speak as you speak to me like all the time. But then going from that to video where we were editing and I was trying to use those filters to trim my face.
There's no filter in the world, my friend.
There's none. I need more bandwidth. That was, I think, for those of you that didn't know, that took a lot of calls between Seth and I to get comfortable, even to show our faces here. But doing these videos, I think that's one thing I really want to thank our audience. So we got a lot of feedback, obviously a lot of likes and whatever the social media, but that's been fun telling these stories. And I thought some of my more intellectual videos would get response, but Seth, you know what the number one promo that we had was?
I do, but guess? you can share it. I do know the answer to this, but you can share
it. This is well, hopefully this was Carlton's dance with it was with Tom Jones. It's not unusual. And
it's the Fresh Prince from
Fresh Prince. Yeah, that's right. And we were doing TV themes and all that. That one was the highest ranking video. So of all the intellectual, and I was trying to do some deep dramatic stuff, it was just basically Carlton doing his dance. And that's the
The algorithm loves dancing, I guess.
The
TikTok,
algorithm.
he was TikTok before TikTok, pretty much.
Exactly. It's the lowest common denominator. I mean, I did that one quickly just to tell you. I was like, yeah, whatever. Let's just get this one out. But this, and I had spent so much time on others and they got no love. So, that was a big lesson for me. And we also learned when Seth puts his face on there, or when Seth talks directly to the camera, our likes go way up. And when I do it, it just kind of goes on a slight decline. So, so it's now going to be
the truth hurts, my friend.
oh, it
Sometimes the
is
truth hurts.
it's going to be D side stories with Seth featuring Scott. I think that's
Top of the marquee, baby.
soon it'll be like we have a special guest today. His name's Scott. He's coming in just for about 30 seconds. Hey, Scott, he's going to kind of clean up the studio. Seth, as we go forward, right? We've kind of done a little introspective and retrospective here. What's next? What can we tell our audience? What's next? How are we evolving? Right? Not like Metallica. We don't want to go there. How are we improving? Let's say.
Yeah. So we've talked about this a bit, and there's I don't want to say there's infinite topics we could discuss. Yeah. I think we've done a really good job sort of covering the landscape of things that we're really passionate about. But I think our hope going forward is that the show kind of shifts from really insular, you and I talking at each other, to something a bit more interactive, to sort of engaging with people who are listening, hearing feedback, sharing. I've got two friends that come to mind, my friend Ryan Mess and then my friend Minta. And both of them they've given more topics on this show than I have. You know what I mean? So it's like, if we could have 50 of that and people, kind of engaged in interacting and sharing their thoughts and kind of prompting us, I think once we've got the ball, we can take it and run with it. But I'm excited for the prospect of more engagement and how we connect with people who love listening to the show and get their voices heard and talk about the topics that they care about. So that's, for me, that's where I hope things continue to evolve.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I know we agree a lot, but this time I really agree, Seth. And
we need to start disagreeing more. That's another thing we need to do more of in the future.
Damn it, Seth. I want to go in this direction. I want to have that legendary we broke up because of creative differences. I want to go solo first. All right. We need to create and then we'll do a reunion tour when we come back. But I agree. And a lot of it is just people come and say, hey, I want to be on your show. Or like, hey, your opinion, or Scott, like, your opinion sucks, or like, you need to talk about this. And that's the great thing about music. In a way, it's highly emotional, and so people have an opinion, whether I think it's totally wrong. Like Cindy likes the Dave Matthews Band, and we're going to talk to her about that one day.
You just get her on and just be like, open the episode and be like, okay, explain yourself. You're on the clock. Explain yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Just to know, guys, we're going to get you up here. We're going to get you on the mic, and we're going to start questioning you. And we're going to do a D side decides with you. Why Dave Matthews sucks. Go. But that dialogue, I think, is so critical. And I think it's going to just be a lot of fun. So this next phase is going to be a more family affair. And just really excited, and just continue on with the fun that we're having. But everyone, again, just want to say thanks. Seth, are there any call outs you want to do? This is your time. Any shout outs?
No, I wanted to definitely. No. I was going to say, I wanted to definitely touch on Mess and Minta both. I want to thank my dad for actually being relatively engaged in it. I want to thank my mom for being supportive while never listening to a single episode, which is great. So I can talk about pretty much whatever I want. And just all the people who have kind of reached out to me, whether I know you or not. That is kind of unexpected and really resonates with me when someone kind of unsolicited just says like, hey, I gave it a listen and I really loved it. And it's the thing that made me go from like, this is maybe a silly idea, but it's fun to try, to like, wow, I'm excited to do this because I realize the impact it's having on people. So, so those are my shout outs. How about any others you want to hit?
I just want to thank my mom for always calling me to tell me to keep going. More just about life in general. But sorry, Mom. I'm sorry. My dear brother, my brother John has introduced me to a world called heavy metal when I was listening to Steely Dan, right, as a kid. And he's always sending me texts, always giving me advice on what new stories we could bring up. I want to thank Marky Espinoza, my buddy from my hometown, who's always commented and just giving advice. And so everyone too that's commented, thank you so much, and we want to make you a part of this. So just to tell you, we're going to start calling you and asking you to do some work, fun work, about sharing your opinions with us that we could then promote. So you're going to be on camera too, so hide your chin, everyone.
Let's outsource this baby. I love
it. That's right, Seth. Listen,
We're
you
off the
guys
clock.
gonna do it. We're gonna curate your content now.
You love this. You love this show so much. Well, guess what? You're doing it from here on out.
That's it, everyone. Well, listen, hey, thank you so much for joining us on the special 50th. We're going to start showing you different kind of promotions now, as Seth mentions. It's more going to be a dialogue, so be on the lookout. And thanks, Seth. It's been fun, bro.
Of course. Before we sign off, thank you to you, Scott. For those who don't know, Scott does the vast majority of the work that goes into the show, the editing, the planning. I am the slacker here, and Scott is the one that pulls my weight. So
yeah,
very sincere shout out to you, Scott. Thank you for making this thing, for starting this thing and keeping it going. So much appreciated.
Well, no, hey, thanks. You know, I would just say this to anyone out there who's thinking about doing your own thing. You know, I'm not gonna, again, here's another, we're gonna pat ourselves on the back. I need it, guys. So just like play with one here. But Seth and I go way back. We helped start a whole new sub brand at a big corporation that's done very well. And Seth and I, that was kind of our first entrepreneurial effort. Then we had Mesh and Bone, which is this alcohol brand that eventually got sold to a venture group. And so just Seth, it's been a phenomenal working with you, but really to everyone else out there, man, I really encourage you, if you have a passion, whatever if it's film or it's knitting or some type of scrapbooking, you have a special script on this planet, and I would just say share it. And so if Seth and I can do it, man, I tell you, you can do it.
And if you do pick up knitting, I'm a size large. I would love a sweater. Thank you.
Seth is going to be on your show. All right, everyone. Yes. Hey, thanks so much. And we'll see you soon.
All right. See you, Scott.
See you, Seth.